So apparently Hasan Piker is getting subpoenaed by the federal government. And it seems like Fox News is the only, that's like where the story originates from. And really, like, subpoenas are just, if you don't know what they are, it's just gathering evidence, like a call to gather evidence of a potential crime. And it's specifically about his trip to Cuba. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you like, oh my God, our socialist Wonder Boy is getting subpoenaed by the government. Isn't this awful? It doesn't matter that much, and let me tell you why. This guy does not. He specifically misleads his audience into thinking that the American political system can be slowly nudged and reformed over time to the left. He supports the Democrats. He supports Bernie Sanders. He supports AOC. He supports Graham Plattner. He supports like out and about Zionists, people who believe that the two-state solution is viable are Zionists because it presupposes the existence of Israel continuing, and that's not a leftist position, you know. That's not a Marxist position, and he goes out of his way to misinform his audience, who are mostly imperialists, people in the first world, that imperialism does not benefit them. Quote, here's a tweet, quote, Western imperialism doesn't serve the people it subjugates and destroys. It doesn't benefit the people carrying out the violence, and it doesn't benefit the people living in the imperial core. It only benefits capital. It's time to do away with empire and focus on ourselves. Now, that just doesn't make any sense because, what a horrendous claim to make, because you know, why would imperialism not benefit the people that are carrying it out? You know, you have soldiers, war veterans, U.S. military veterans going out and murdering and destroying cities and villages in the Middle East or wherever else in the world, and they get kickbacks from that. They get their degree, that they get their free healthcare, they get their paycheck for life. You know what I mean? That they get socialism, quote unquote, from the government. But even then, you know, we get tens of thousands of dollars increases on the wages when someone working in Africa or India would have to work like 500 times the hours in order to afford the same like basic commodity item, like the iPhone, for example. You know, we only have to work maybe a 50-hour week, you know, if you've got a decent job, to be able to pay for something like that. And obviously, like, you know, there's going to be people in the comments that are going to be like, actually, there's no way that I could ever afford that. You know, I'm actually dirt poor. Your dirt poor in the United States is nothing compared to the dirt poor of people in the third world and the global south. And Hasan Piker doesn't want you to know that. He actively chooses not to tell you that. It is part of his political agenda. You know, it's part of his political project here to get Americans riled up as much as they can be, right? To make them think that things aren't going well for them, and then to fight for incremental reforms within the system through Democratic Party entryism, you know, and entryism being the Trotskyist tactic that it is. You go into a party and you try to split it internally and push it one way or another. And that just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It will usually yield much better results to form another party entirely. And the focus on this party business is a huge matter of concern for Marxists. Lenin talks about how without revolutionary leadership and revolutionary intellectuals, there can be no revolution. All you'll have is just senseless, mindless violence. And I'm not saying that you should advocate for violence, but Hasan Piker getting subpoenaed by the United States government is just fascist infighting. It's one fascist getting screwed over financially, potentially financially, because this honestly might just be an immense amount of PR for Hasan Piker, because you have people on the conservative side of things saying like, oh no, I may disagree with him, but I believe in freedom. Nobody deserves to be subpoenaed by the government, but then you have some people that are like, well, he obviously committed crimes. He's obviously a foreign agent, which he's not. He's an American agent, some might say a federal agent, through and through. Like, stop supporting Hasan. I don't know how much clearer I can make this. Don't support him. If he comes out at a rally and he's like, the government tried to subpoena me, and this is bad, and this is why you should be upset, and this is why you should hate the government. Not why you should hate the government. There are plenty of valid reasons, and one of those is not the government cannibalizing one of its own agents. You should hate the U.S. government because it is in charge of the most massive cartel and gang syndicates in the entire world. It is the largest terrorist organization in the entire fucking planet. They murder countless people in the global south. American finance capital destroys the economies of underdeveloped countries that were previous victims of colonialism, because the maintenance of this relationship is fundamental to the continued benefits of Americans. Hasan Piker doesn't want you to care about people in the third world. He supports Zionists. He platforms people who don't care about Palestine. And yet he tries to make himself look like this guy who cares about people in the third world. He doesn't care about Cuba, only insofar as that it benefits him. He's an opportunist. He's a right opportunist, if we're going to use a term from Lenin. And a right opportunist is somebody who is in the game. They might be anti-capitalist, but for not for anti-capitalist motivations. That not on the same principles, and so it will lead them to the wrong conclusions, or it will lead them to the conclusions that reflect their class interests. And for Hasan Piker, he's a streamer. He's an entry point leftist streamer who makes bank off of sponsorships, donations, you name it, partnerships, whatever. He doesn't want you to care about people in the third world and actually form some sort of international workers alliance or international solidarity, really, or to even have empathy, for people who are on the receiving end of Zionist bombing. He doesn't care about that. So Hasan Piker getting subpoenaed by the government, I couldn't care less. I actually don't think it's a bad thing. Not because I'm bootlicking the government, but because it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. There are some people that are like, oh, well, this is the new age McCarthyism, right? This is the beginning of new McCarthyism. Oh no, settler parties and settler communists, quote unquote, getting cracked down on by the settler government. Again, it's just fascist infighting. It's liberals fighting liberals. It's liberals pointing at other liberals and saying, communist. There's nothing, none of that is real. The real struggle is on the international stage. And the actual people that are fighting against American imperialism are whole countries like Russia and China and Iran. The whole point of Hasan pretending to be a leftist is to keep you satiated. Present to you somebody who will take your grievances and tell you to vote for a Democrat. And tell you that this is realistically the only thing that you can do in the two-party system. You can't vote third party. You can't You can't do anything outside of the system and outside of the binary options that it gives you. And so why not put people that are leftists, quote unquote, because Graham Plattner isn't a leftist. He's another Fed, basically. He's a mass murdering, and even if he's not a Fed, he's a mass murdering freak. He's a mass murdering monster who went on multiple tours in Afghanistan and other places. He killed Iraqi children, men, women, and children, for a paycheck. That's who you want to be in charge of your children's futures. If I'm going to appeal, to people who might care about that, you want somebody who has murdered hundreds of thousands of people and is part of a machine that has murdered hundreds of thousands of people to improve conditions for you. Well, sure. If you only care about your in-group, if you only care about Americans, if you only care about white people, you only care about men, you only care about cis hetero people, then sure. Why not support Hasan Piker? Why not support Graham Plattner? Why not support Bernie Sanders? These people, why not support AOC? They just want better things for Americans. And what's wrong with that? That's what they think. Improving things for Americans necessitates the disenfranchisement further of people in the global south, of colonized populations, and of indigenous people in America itself. You really care about Palestine? You should just vote for the Democrats. It makes me uncomfy to talk about Palestine. She had a whole interview where she just was a Fed the whole time. Shared federal agent positions. And Hasan Piker is basically the same thing. Because he, along with her, along with many bread tubers, quote unquote, are imperialists. If you want better things for Americans, are an imperialist. It is that simple. If you want better things for Americans, under the current system that exists, the actually existing American system of government and economics, you're an imperialist. And now the way to get out of that, so I'm sure some of you might be asking, form a genuine Marxist-Leninist vanguard party. You have to go deeper and deeper and deeper, the lowest rung of society, the homeless people. You have to get them educated on revolution, because it is only the people who have the most to gain and the least to lose that will make up the true meat of your revolutionary force. That's what the Black Panthers did. The Black Panthers specifically were a black nationalist, Marxist-Leninist, Maoist group. They were specifically educating themselves on how to overthrow an imperialist occupier. And the sooner that we get to that point and understand a position that people had in the 70s and the 60s, literally 50 years ago, the sooner we can get to that point, the sooner we can actually for real start talking about revolution in America. But that America that we talk about is ephemeral. Like, that's not going to be what it is anymore. If you are part of the Black Panthers, or if you are somebody who wants to begin a vanguard party, you're not an American anymore. You see what I'm saying? To be an American is to be a Nazi. To be an American is to be a Zionist. because America is the original Nazism, the original Zionism. You don't have Zionism and you don't have Nazism without American colonialism and settlerism. And Hasan Piker is a champion of settler leftists, left Zionists, left Nazis, left Americans. You see the point that I'm trying to make here? Because the sooner that we get past that point and we start to really dig down and dig deeper to the lowest rungs of society, the sooner a revolution can have the potential of happening. You know, it's unfortunate, I guess, depending on how you look at it. You have to be reasonable, and you have to reasonably expect a Marxist vanguard party to not have that many members in a settler colony like the United States, where it is so far down the line of indigenous genocide and land theft that we have reservations with the most destitute poor living there and having their land taken piecemeal more and more and more, just like the Palestinians. It's just that in Israel, they're way earlier in that settler colonial project. The difference is the stage that they are at in that process. They've been doing it for like 80 plus years now, and there are other material conditions that are different, such as the plurality of the multiple indigenous nations in the United States versus the one Palestinian national identity, which the less separation that you have between indigenous groups, the stronger that they end up being. You know, it's much better for the Palestinians to have this one unified nation of Palestine that they are fighting for. That helps in a national liberation struggle. Now, with indigenous Americans, they're very federalized and confederated, you know? Like, you had a massive plurality of indigenous nations, all being separated and torn apart, and sometimes forced to fight each other on the behalf of the settlers, the settler colonizers. Then you have African nations, you know, new Africans. You have Africans that are brought over in the slave trade, brought to America, and told to fight indigenous people. And they didn't always do that, you know. But nowadays, you have entire black populations, African populations in the United States, parroting the same imperialist talking points as the U.S. government. You know, they've been colonized in their mind. So just because your skin color is one thing or another doesn't mean you're immune to becoming an imperialist. Do you see what I'm saying? Anyways, don't support Hasan Piker. If he gets subpoenaed, whatever. So let me know in the comments what you think about Hasan Piker getting subpoenaed. And if I'm a total moron, or if you think I'm wrong, tell me. Let me know. Refute me. Debate me, bro. Anyways, see ya.